Welcome to the Spirit School of Ministry podcast, where we discuss discipleship in everyday life. Hey everyone, I'm Liz. I'm here with Pastor Bob and Pastor David on my right. I'm not going to get you guys mixed up like I did last time.
You're
so similar.
Up, huh? I know. It's so amazing.
It's so easy. You guys are like twins. It's just so easy to get you guys mixed up.
You know, it's okay to make mistakes. I want you to feel at home.
Oh, thank you.
I want to welcome you home.
I feel really at home.
We want you to feel
place.
our hospitality.
Like I'm in a hospital. That's how
Hospice.
I feel. Like I'm suffering in a hospital.
The question is, are you on life support?
That's the danger of hospitality. You could let crazy people into your house.
That's true.
You never know. So.
Well, we are talking about hospitality.
What's wrong with that
today? Well, that's the norm in my house. It's okay. It's all
normal
good.
crazy.
Yeah, it's all good.
All right, we're gonna talk about. It's a little bit odd today.
These
it's
people
okay.
listening
have
to get serious because it's them causing us not to focus correctly.
Oh, it's their fault?
Okay.
Well, yeah. Don't you feel it?
Shame on you.
Oh,
okay.
yeah. Shame.
Okay.
Shame.
Okay, here we go.
Shame is good.
Goodness gracious. All right, hospitality. Very spiritual subject.
It is, Martha.
Luke 10. I'll give a Bible verse. Martha is hospitable. There we go. Now it's a legal podcast.
Okay, there we go. We got the scripture.
Got the scripture out of the way.
Pastor Bob. Remember?
Yeah. Oh, no. I have to
Remember
put
your title?
I'm going to bring that other thing in.
Yes, Pastor Bob. Can you tell us what hospitality is? What is that all about?
From my point of view,
Or, God's or whatever point of view you want to bring in today.
I think just some random opinion.
Just a random opinion that let me Google it. I'll be right back. But I believe that hospitality for me, when I experience hospitality, I feel very much, and I know David was goofing with it, but I feel very much at home in a place. When I don't experience hospitality, then I don't feel welcome. It's really just that simple. And, so I guess we could end the podcast here.
Well,
or maybe not.
maybe we could we'll try the question again. What is hospitality? What is it?
Oh, you mean the actual action of hospitality, not what it makes me.
What
not
are we
what it
talking
makes
about
me
today?
feel like.
Yeah, I know it makes us feel. It has an effect. It has an effect.
Very
on us,
good.
But how would you, if someone were to ask you that question, like I just did, how would you answer it?
I believe that it's someone in a very interesting way serving you. Okay. Yeah, I believe that's what hospitality actually is. And I think if you are okay with serving people, then they will actually see the manifestation of hospitality. It's not just something we talk about. It's not some theological concept. It's actual experiential.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And it comes in the form of serving.
What do you think, Liz?
What do I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, really. You got to ask your own question. Is
I
that
know.
it?
Yeah, it's good. Hospitality, I believe, is someone using their resources, like you said, to serve someone else and to prepare a place for them to be safe, to be whole, to have their needs met, to be ministered to.
Yeah.
I think that there's different ways that it manifests, but I think that it is about you taking something that you have and intentionally providing it for somebody else and welcoming them into a space that could be a physical space or even an atmosphere that you create sometimes where people feel welcome and invited and wanted, and they are able to then receive some ministry for their soul or for their life.
It's interesting you use that word ministry because hospitality is actually a ministry. And it's a tremendous ministry, actually. And I think it's overlooked or it's not as important as the pastoral ministry.
Right.
But I believe that if a pastor does not have hospitality, then they probably can't really be a very good pastor.
Right. Well, I mean, scripturally, that's one of the requirements, actually, of an elder in the church, right? Is that they are given to hospitality.
Yeah.
That's right.
How would you describe hospitality?
I'd say it's a pursuit because in Romans 12, it says, seek to show hospitality. And it's something that you have to seek. It's like, I mean, I guess there's some people that have such a magnetic gift that people just drop by their house. But I think those people have cultivated that. They
Yeah.
over a long period of time, they've said, hey, my door is always open. Come by. Like, my house isn't going to be maybe the cleanest, but you're always welcome here. And, maybe they've planned ahead. Like, a lot of times you need to plan ahead. You need the resources. It's actually married to the phrase, contribute to the needs of the saints
Right.
and seek to show hospitality. So I say amen to what you were mentioning, that it's using your resources that God's given you to contribute, and you have to pursue that. Like, it's not just going to happen out of the blue. And there's a lot of Christians, myself included at times, that we want to be welcomed. We want to belong somewhere, but we don't seek to give that to someone else. We don't seek to make the place, or we think that it should be reciprocal. Like, I did it this week. How come it's not happening for me this week? I'm not getting it back.
Yeah.
But it says that the command is for us to continually, it's in that tense in Greek, is continually seek to show hospitality and not grow weary in doing it. And I think like a lot of people actually burn out in giving of themselves and letting people into their life and into their home. And because when you let someone in your home or even into your confidence, you're letting them into your life. And people get burned out at that. And it takes a lot of resilience to seek to show hospitality.
Yeah.
So that was what came to my mind. It's actually a pursuit in my view that we need to take up as Christians.
That's good. Yeah, it is something that's very intentionally done. And it will require you to give of yourself. Either way, if it's inviting people into your home or being hospitable in the workplace or wherever that is, it does require you to give of yourself and to invite people in to who you are, actually, into what you have, and into that intimate place in some ways, rather than just like, hey, like you can have someone come over to your house and then you just open the door and they have to stand outside.
Yeah.
And you could talk to them there, but that's like
Feel really good there. Huh?
yeah.
You could have all that plastic on your couches.
Feel like a shoe salesman.
And we can do that actually just in our lives. It's like, well, I
Yeah.
talked to this person, but you didn't actually bring them in. I think there's a spirit of hospitality.
Right.
And there are also like practical applications of it, but there's a heart of, I want to invite people into my life, and that requires me to make room for them.
Sounds like what you're saying then is that hospitality is very much akin to fellowship.
Yeah. I think
Like
it
it's
facilitates
fully connected to what fellowship. Obviously, fellowship goes even further or more. I don't know if it's further, but it's more than hospitality. But it opens, the hospitality is like opening the door to true fellowship. But it requires giving, just like fellowship requires giving.
Yes.
And so if you're in the mode of only receiving, it gets kind of rough because you won't really avail yourself to give into hospitality, to provide for needs that are there, and to be readily able to do that. Willing to give. And I think those are things, God uses those things to really develop in us. I think I would just say core value manifestations of God, because his life is always open to us. He's so ready to give and to welcome us into his house, into his place, and provide for us.
Yeah.
On so many levels.
Right.
It's really good, actually, hospitality. I'm kind of glad we're talking about this in some ways. But I want to ask you a question, Pastor Liz.
Okay.
Why are we talking about hospitality today?
Why are we talking about it?
Yeah, and why? Why do we need to have this
I think it's
discussion?
a really valuable expression of God. And I think that it's something that anyone can do. That's like, you don't have to have a gift of hospitality.
Right.
It's like you just decide, I'm going to share my life with people and I want them to know me and I want to be known by them. And I think it's just, I don't know, I just think it's really important. And this, heart was developed in me over a long time. I served in our hospitality ministry at the church. And what can seem very natural is actually extremely spiritual, like extremely. And I think sometimes we put it in the category of like practical, which it is. It's practical also, but natural.
Yeah.
But it's you experience, like you were saying, like the heart of God, the generosity of God, the family of God, the willingness to go above and beyond for the sake of someone else's comfort and healing and refreshment. There's just something, I believe that people experience the heart of the Father in that. They experience Jesus as their brother. They experience, like the life of God that flows. And it is done through very practical things, inviting someone into your home, preparing a meal for them, or serving them in a, when visiting ministries come to your church, like making sure that they are taken care of and they have a place to sit and they're, all of those things. But it's like you're pouring out to them grace. You're pouring out to them refreshing. And like I said, it's something we can all do.
Well, it's interesting. A couple of things come to mind when you said that when you said we can all do it. The first thing that came to my mind is like, it sounds like we should all do it, not just can. Yeah. It's almost like God's command to us is to be his hands extended. The other thing that came to mind when you were talking about like the cooking and all that, since I'm a wonderful cook and I'm able to make Campbell's chicken noodle soup in the microwave for people when they come into my house, it's just a wonderful experience. But there are other things people can do to show hospitality, actually. Like when when I see someone help someone, like they're broken down at their car, or they need help at their house building something, or those are all, like, to me, very much forms of a form of hospitality. The heart behind it is hospitality. It's helping, it's engaging, it's giving. And those things, I think, like I said, I think it's easy to hear hospitality talk and everybody relegated to just cooking at your house and, opening your home to be, which it is.
Yeah.
It is that. That's a really good way to, obviously fellowship happens around food and all that. I'm all for that. Matter of fact, at the end of this podcast, I think we should give your address out and phone number. People should call for this, because Liz is a really good cook. She can do Greek food.
I do love to host people. It's really fun.
You do, actually. You're kind of in your sweet spot zone there when you do that.
Yeah, it's great. I don't know. I just like to. I like to see people enjoy themselves and have a nice time together. It's like I like that.
I was actually the first time I actually saw hospitality demonstrated was actually even before I came to Jesus, and at home with my mom. She's a little Italian lady. Yeah. And I could bring friends over anytime, any day, and have like a full feast. Yeah. The house was always open to them. There was always food, and they always felt welcome. They didn't have to like earn it. They were overwhelmingly welcomed, actually. And interesting enough, when I moved away from New York, some of my friends kept in touch with my mom and were still friends with her. And that's when I realized they were actually her friends.
That's pretty funny.
And not
That's
mine.
A great thing,
It's like kind of interesting when you think about it.
That is funny.
Yeah.
I'm sure Philip and Dave have that in a situation. Your children, right?
Yeah,
Their friends are just coming over.
And I love it.
Phil's not here. Oh, that's too bad.
I love it. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
But when we were talking about, I think the hospitality there is, like I said, it's not so much what you're doing, because I've been to people's houses and they're doing the stuff, but you just don't feel like they actually want you there. Like they actually want you there or comfortable, or like you're putting them out or something.
Right.
It's like, I remember once I was at someone's house and like, oh, I have this to drink or this to drink. And I said, oh yeah, I'll have that one. And they go, oh, well, I have to go get it from the pantry to give it to you. And I'm like,
That's
okay, sorry, never mind. I'll just, whatever, I was like, wow, I don't.
Oh,
I'm
sure.
sorry.
Oh, sure. Take my last cookie.
Yeah.
I think I've done that to you once.
Gosh, yeah.
But it's like there's a heart behind it of like, what I have is yours.
Yeah.
And that yes, it should be done in your home, because that is like, there's so many scriptural examples of that, and commands, especially in the New Testament, to be that way. But I think there's also this spirit, heart of hospitality, that what I have is yours. And I think especially like in the church, we can really decide if we're going to be hospitable to people that are coming in. Like, you're welcome here, new people that are coming. There's a hospitality approach that we can have to them of like, we want you here, you're welcome here, everything we have is yours, or like the standoff, like, oh, we'll see if they last, like we'll see if they come back again.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say somewhat just that idea of like, I want you here and I want to take good care of you. And to me, that's the heart of God.
Yeah.
He's like, I want you here. I want to take good care of you. And how many people really say that to someone in our society? Like we give that out, but it's so meaningful when somebody extends that to you. And when you are like new, like you mentioned, a new person coming to church, or you're new somewhere, you're going to try to establish those things, but you're not the one with the keys. You're not the one that can open that up. It's the people that are there, and when there's people that come around our orbit as Christians, like, if it's out at our job, we want to invite someone to Jesus, we want to invite someone to church. We have the keys. Like, they might be seeking the Lord, but we have to let them in. That's why he says, like, receive a little child. Whoever receives a little child in my name receives me. You have to open to others and be like, hey, we want you. And we actually are going to do something and make a sacrifice and make a plan and hollow out our schedule because we want to get to know you. And it's going to be difficult. We don't even know if we're going to like you.
Right.
But we care about you. We want to take care of you. And that should be the heart of Christ. It says in Romans 15, welcome one another as Christ has welcomed you. Because you are not very likable. At least I wasn't, for those of you listening, like I'm, but Christ was like,
you're still a little challenged.
No, it's like,
Oh my gosh.
he's like, hey, come on in here. Like I prepared a place for you. Like, I loved how you said that. It's preparing a place for someone. And hopefully it's in the Father's heart. That was exactly what Jesus did for us. And if we don't have that heart, we are just like Martha, because Martha welcomed Jesus into the house, but then she didn't even sit with him. She didn't want to receive him.
Right.
She was trying to impress him or something, and we like opening ourselves up to people is such a powerful thing. That's something that I think we're starving for as human beings. Like, we're going to seek to show hospitality. We're going to give that. But I think every human being is starving and thinking like, who here wants me? Who around me like wants me? And that's a really vulnerable place. That's like that's a little kid. Like, what little kid? He's like, where's my home? That's like the kid in us is like, who's going to have me over? Like, who wants me around? And that's like almost the most basic human need. Who's going to pay attention to me? Who's going to put a cup of watered down apple juice in my hand? Like I give my little daughter, it's like, who's going to do that? Who gives a darn about me, right? We're on a Christian podcast, but like, who cares? Who cares about me? And we have to answer that question, like in ourselves, of like, are we going to provide that for other people? We can't control if other people provide that for us, but we can provide that for other people. So,
well, I think one of the things that people have to fight is I would call it a poverty mindset or a selfish spirit that keeps them from giving, from engaging people and actually providing for their lives.
Yeah.
And so that it's, and by the way, that poverty mindset or stingy, selfish spirit, it can be on a really rich person.
The evil eye.
Right. The evil eye. It can be on a rich person as well as person that has limited means.
Yes.
Right. But if what I have, I give, it's a whole different deal going on there. People feel welcome, even at some place where the person may not have much,
Right.
but what they have, they are bringing to the table, so to speak, and they're sharing with you. And it's interesting. Can I do story time? This is a good story time. I was in Africa with Pastor Pat, and we were out at my daughter, who was a missionary there at the time and a nurse. We went out to a lady's house. Well, it was a shack with dirt floors and thatched roof. And we went out to her house, and she wanted to thank my daughter and us for us sending my daughter to her because she had AIDS and was dying, and my daughter cared for her and her children. And so she wanted to thank us. So she prepared like food for us. Well, they don't have anything. I mean, we're talking about, we're sitting in the dirt. It's being cooked out of one little pot, and they gave us some food. and it was really made from like the trees that were sitting there, and things. And I remember her handing like, it seemed like, well, what I would call like a nickel, but it wasn't a nickel there in, Mozambique, to one of her kids, and had them go to a store, if you would call it a store, to buy some seasoning. I mean, that's all she had, but she wanted it to be okay. That was hard enough, just hard enough on your soul, where like, wow, someone's giving out of total need, like they don't have, but they're totally giving. It went further than that. We're sitting there, and I gave my part of my plate to one of the little kids who were there. And by the way, there were 30 little kids there playing with my daughter, and they, wow, this gets emotional. It's weird. The kid went to the other little kids. Now, these kids don't eat regularly. You hear what I'm saying? And they went to the other little kids, and they shared that food. Even though I gave it to one child who was close, they went and shared it with each kid. Everybody got a bite. And there must have been 25 or 30 of them. But I thought, wow, to me, it's just like, her hospitality, the woman who was hosting us, the kids, how they had that in their soul for other people. It changed me. Like I said, even to this day, it's very emotional to me when I think back to it, because it was so profound what they knew in their souls. And by the way, she was a Christian woman, by the way. And so she had come to Jesus and all that. And she was trying to raise her children that way too, in this little dirt shack. And those kids never probably ever going to get outside of that area ever, but yet still practicing hospitality in the absolute worst conditions you could possibly imagine. Yeah. And yet there it was. It was manifested to me so intensely that to this day it's like if I close my eyes, I'm there. I remember it. I remember the smells, and I remember the kids laughing and sharing and the kindness with it. Well, I'm sorry, that was the end of my story time, but it's just so, I think we can lose sight of what the heart of hospitality is, what it really is, and what I think a lot of times people look at what it takes to do it and not realize you have what it takes to do it.
Right. It is really about honoring the value of someone else. And that doesn't take a whole lot to do, actually. It takes attention and intentionality and love, but it doesn't actually require a whole lot else. It's like, here's someone that is valuable. It's valuable to the Lord, is valuable to me and my life, and they are worth spending time with. That's what I think a lot of hospitality comes down to is my time is well spent with other people. And I think a lot of times we get really busy. We get really busy with things, even good things, even ministry things. We get really busy, and we forget that actually the primary reason we are here is for relationships. And we can so easily like sacrifice those things for all the things that we need to get done.
Yeah, I love that story you shared, because like the honor the Lord has for her, Mama Paula.
Oh yeah,
I remember Don told me that story, and I want to honor her because it's like those things that don't often get honored, and it's not going to be publicized, but it's famous in heaven, and it's such a little thing. It's like the widow's mite, but it was it's everything. That's everything. Are we going to give that when we're in that extreme poverty? I don't know. That takes immense faith for someone to do that, and those are the types of things that are going on all over the world, and those little acts, and there's reward in that because you're receiving Christ. Like you're receiving somebody and taking care of them. Whatever you're doing for the least of these, you're doing for Christ.
Yes.
And that lady did that, and she's passed away now, and she's reaping an eternal reward for things like that, and I just think the people that we think are the great saints may not necessarily be the great saints. I just wanted to put that out there because there's incredible people
I'm glad you
out
brought
there.
up her name, because I think it's important to honor her. And also, it's funny when you use the widow's mite, because when it was happening in front of me, I felt like I was experiencing it.
Yeah.
like it was happening, like I was seeing it manifested. It wasn't a Bible story any longer. It was reality. And that kind of thing, like I said, to this day, it has such a profound effect on my soul that it changed the way I look at, like I said, if I close my eyes, I can see her handing a little coin to her kid. Like it's right there, tangible, right in front of me right now. And she's doing it out of, it's beyond faith. It's just out of hospitality. It's out of care.
Yeah. What an amazing picture.
Oh man, don't get me going on that. But when I think about it, it's just, well, there's so many things about that,
right?
That I'll do another Africa story. It has to do with one of the little kids there. I'm sorry, I'm bothering everybody with it. But one of the little kids, Dawn took care of 3 little boys. And she would take them to the hospital every week, spend hours in the heat sitting there because they all had AIDS. They were born with it. They were little guys. And they so loved her and honored her that when her dad showed up, which I didn't earn anything, okay, I remember we went to, I would call it church, but whatever church. Don't think of church American, okay? Just think of church. It's different. We went to church, and it was great church. And all of a sudden, the kid didn't even speak English right now, but all of a sudden, he's alongside of me with a chair. He had somewhere found a chair because there were no chairs that I could see in this church. As I don't think church like your regular church. People like wondering about, that's my seat. There was none, right? Somewhere this kid had found a seat, walked up to me, and I remember he just bumped me, real like, and I looked down, I smiled, he goes, for you, and I was like, wow. Like I felt at home. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I felt like home. Wow. It's hard to,
it's awesome.
It's, I was going to say it's hard to shake those things. I don't want to shake those things.
No way.
Right.
Yeah. Because those things shape us.
They're amazing.
Well, when I was thinking about this topic, I was thinking how hospitality ministers to every part of the whole person. It's like it ministers to spirit, soul, and body. And that's what I'm like picking up really strong from you in these stories. Is like, here they are, they're giving you food for your body or giving you a chair to sit down on, but it goes so much further. It's like there's a spiritual component of it, and there's definitely this, like it hits your soul, and it brings all kinds of stuff with it.
Well, I can recall that, and I'm I've been in walking with Jesus a couple of years now, almost 50.
Right.
And I've heard a zillion messages. I don't recall them. I recall that.
Yeah.
Because that was a manifestation of the message of God.
Yeah, a living letter.
A living letter. It's like, but these are our epistles, read of all men. I'm like, whoa. Not only were they epistles, they brought me into their story.
Yeah.
That's what hospitality does. It
awesome.
brings you into the person's life. They are opening their life to you, and they're just opening the door wide and bringing you in. And like I love what you said earlier. It's like going to the door and they make you stand outside while they talk to you. And you know what? I've been guilty of that.
Yeah.
If any, we're going to be honest, transparent. Right. Everyone's probably been guilty of that. Maybe there's some kind people that haven't, but we all have, for a lot of reasons. By the way, there's a lot of probably good reasons too. Mostly it's our time. Like I really don't have the time for this,
right?
And then to make the time.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing that people really face is like they don't want to bring people into their home. Or into their life because they feel like it's not acceptable. Their house is not acceptable. Their life is not acceptable. They don't want to bring people in there, and that's a whole other side of this topic. Is like, are you prepared? Like, have you prepared? And not perfect. Like things don't have to be perfect for you to welcome people in. It's like you may not have like a designer home. But if it's warm and welcoming and somewhat clean, people will be good with coming in and sharing life with you.
Absolutely.
And guess what? If you're in need and it's not like it's a mess, people will still come in and share life with you, But I think that this is an issue that prevents people from extending hospitality is there's an internal issue that hasn't been resolved.
And and some of it can be well grounded if you never steward your stuff, you never clean your house, like you never have food in the fridge, it's going to be tough for you to have someone in at the spur of the moment or to make a plan to invite somebody. So like cultivating those stewardship elements actually promotes hospitality, and it gives you more resources that you can share. So I think that, I mean, just on the practical side, they have to, take care of that. But like you said, if you've taken care of that and you don't have much, I mean, Bob's story is a perfect illustration. Give exactly what you have, and I love what you said too, Pastor Bob, about the time you take for people. And I think hospitality can be like, hey, I'm going to an appointment, but I'll be 10 minutes late because this person's sharing something important with me. I'm not just going to be like, oh, okay, I'll pray for you, brother. I'll be like, oh man, okay, tell me. And I just, have to entrust that to the Lord. Like all our times are in his hands. That's been a big challenge for me because I like to be on time. I'm very time oriented, and I get stressed out when I feel like people is stealing my time away. And I want to be effective, and I want to use my time, blah, blah, blah. But all my time should be in the Lord's hands. I should have given that to the Lord a long time ago when I got saved. My time shouldn't be my time. It should be for God and for other people. And when you do that, of course, he gives you a lot of blessings, and you get time to enjoy life. But I think that's a huge thing of being willing to spend a moment with someone and being willing to like hear someone. If we're not doing, those are little things that show hospitality. And even in evangelism, like following up with somebody, like you've shared the gospel with them, buy them a coffee,
right?
Buy them lunch, do something like create space so that they know. Your love and your friendship isn't contingent on their decision. Like you really want to be a part of their life.
Right.
Like you actually want to know them. You're not just trying to notch a belt or minister to them. Like it could be the same in the church. Like, are you just meeting a new person because you want them to be part of your small group, because you want them to serve in your ministry or whatever? Or do you actually have an interest in them as a human being? So I think we have to prepare for that.
I think, absolutely. That they're like getting together for, ministry things or like church related things is fine and good. But I think there's an aspect of just sharing life where it's like you can enjoy things together and you can hang out. Like that is so, and again, we're like, oh, spiritual, not spiritual, natural, supernatural. It's like we
dice it up.
We divide them up into like earthly categories and
you split the
heavenly,
baby
heavenly categories, right? And it's like those times of being with people and like laughing together and enjoying life together, those are so important. Like we have to step beyond just like we attend church together to actually we're family. Seriously. And we can just share like the joys and the sorrows and just share like the goofy things and the jokes and like just little kids running around and it's it's crazy and like
it is crazy.
It is
all
crazy.
this stuff because that's what family is, and we can keep our church relationships in the church compartment, but it's like, is that actually hospitality? To me means you have to take it beyond the church compartment into the life compartment. And I was like, I talk about this in our school a lot. It's like having compartments for everything in your life is you live like this fractured life, and it's like God wants it to have integrity, which is like I am who I am in the church, at my house, wherever I am. Like I don't live one way. I shouldn't live one way in my home where I don't want people to come in and see it, right? Like, oh, they'll see this about me or they'll see that I do this or whatever. It's like that has to end. The compartmentalization and the inside life and the outside life.
Yes.
Well, I believe also if hospitality comes out of you only out of your abundance, it probably will never find its way out. I believe
what do you mean by that?
Well, I believe that you're even out of if you have needs or not a bunch of abundance, and I'm speaking to someone today, I know by the Spirit of God, like you don't look at your life like maybe even don't consider yourself a good steward, like you have a bunch of stuff that you that you have I've got a whole bunch of stuff that I can give to people. And God's saying, hey, what you do have, what little you do have, you're able to give if you're willing to give it.
Yes.
And sometimes we use an excuse is what it is, be, for our unwillingness to give. And God's challenging you to, go beyond that, go beyond what you see as needs and not an abundance in your life, and give what you have. But give it from your heart, because that's what actually touches people. It's not, like you said, you can walk into someone's life, house, whatever, like Liz was saying earlier, and if you're the kind of person that goes, would you like this? Oh, okay, I'll have to go get it. It makes a person feel odd, or like, oh yeah, I have that, but it's my last one. This
is really costing me a lot.
This is costing me a lot to give this to you.
Take your shoes off right now.
Yeah, right. There's no hospitality there. There's, and I liked what David said earlier, is that yes, there's stewardship involved. So you should steward your life. There are going to be things God will provide, but God's provided the spirit of hospitality in each and every one of his sons and daughters already to give of what you have. And I feel like the Holy Spirit speaking to you today that you've excluded yourself because you feel like you don't have something to give, or what you have is not good enough. And meanwhile, people are coming into your life, and what they really need is the real you. They need who you are,
right,
how you present what little you have to them. And that thing, just like what I mentioned earlier about the story about that woman, Mama Paula, they'll walk away from your life out of your lack of abundance, touched by the Spirit of God, because they've experienced God through you, because of your hospitality, because of your caring, because of your giving. And that's something that's in every single one of us. And you know what? I'm going to just say it like this. It's time to stop making excuses for this. It's time to stop covering that and just step into it. You got to have to cross that threshold sooner or later, because at some point in time, God's going to hold us accountable as people. This is the hard part about Christianity. We talk about a great thing like hospitality, and it sounds sweet and nice and people and nice and cushy. And meanwhile, God requires it of us. This is not an optional thing. He requires each and every one of us to be willing to give of our lives into someone else's life. And I believe God's speaking to you today, if you're listening to this, that there's places you've hidden your life away from the requirement to give. I'm going to leave it at that for right there.
Yeah.
I'm just
going to say too, there are some of us where we love our private time. And it's like when we have time that's free, we don't want to have anyone over. We want to just have our time to do our things or do nothing if we want to. And that's a place where, we have to get over ourselves and understand that our life is not our own, and that we can spend our evenings watching TV or reading books or hanging out or gaming or whatever it is. But ultimately, we are here on the earth for a reason. And that reason is to bring people into the family of God, because there's an eternity that's coming ahead of us. Yes. And so we have to take an eternal, and I get it. It's difficult. It's difficult sometimes. Like, you're working, you got obligations, and it's like, oh, I got a free evening. I don't want to deal with anybody, and I get it. I'm going to tell you one of the most impressive things to me about Jesus is that he decided to let people into his life and to walk with them every single day for his ministry. It wasn't like, you guys come back for class time, and it's like, we are walking together. And he went away with some of his quiet times with the Lord, but he also invited them into that place. And when he went away and the crowds came after him with needs, he set himself aside and he met their needs. Like, I don't know. It's just something like, Jesus did a lot of miracles. To me, it's miraculous that he invited people into the closest places of his life every day.
And he didn't have a home.
And he didn't get mad at them and hate them. Well, maybe he did. He didn't resent them. He understood why he was here.
Yeah.
And that superseded all of his personal
I like what
struggles.
David said. He didn't have a home.
Yeah.
It's like, he was
brought
the home.
He was
no
the
place
home.
to
He
lay
brought
his
them
head.
completely into his life.
He is the house.
That's miraculous to me.
Wow.
So there's a lot of great things.
When you are the temple, you don't need a house. That's a good tweetable.
Well, I wanted to
preacher
ask you
phrase
guys, maybe if you could talk a little bit about what hospitality looks like in your lives, and then also maybe what are some ways people can grow into hospitality now that we've challenged them thoroughly.
Wow, that's a good question. But in my life, I have a really good example in my life all the time because I live with her.
Yes.
My wife, she just provides for stuff for people. They can come over anytime, and she's like, it's there, it's ready. Our house is welcoming. She has stuff. She's, if you come over for dinners or anything, and I believe, I think some of the ways that you asked how it looks in our lives.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we all teach in our church, but I believe that when we teach, like I like to teach in my home, and I believe that I like to have my home open for people to come and actually spend time and make it their home and eat there and fellowship there and be there, be with, I like to share my friends with people, actually. I mean, that really, so hospitality for me, it looks like I said, I have a really good example only because my wife, she's always been like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was even when we had 4 kids living in our house and we've opened our house over many, many, many years for people to live there at times or just spend time there. And we still do that today. We host people that come and spend the weekend, and it's weird. Okay, this is the great thing about hospitality: you're giving, but you fully get at the same time.
Sure.
Like I don't want to us to miss that part. Whenever I've been hospitable, I've always received. It just always. I come away, refreshed, healed, strengthened, in the presence of God. And so I think if we look at it as like just a giving, and that you actually receive in the process, which is crazy. So I don't know if that answered your question completely.
Yeah. What are some ways people could maybe start doing something or?
Yeah. Well, I think some of the easy ways, of course, is if you invite somebody out for something. Now, maybe you don't have money to do that, okay? Or maybe you can make something for them and just invite them over.
Yeah.
Like I really enjoy, with people I know when they come over. Sometimes they come over with just one person. It's not like a whole group, and we just sit and drink some coffee and just love on each other, just care for each other. And I think that that's easy. It's easy to do that. Actually, it's not that hard. There are some things that I believe, like you said earlier, both of you alluded to it, and that is, people find challenges there because their house, they don't feel their house is worthy. And you need to do something about that. You have to either clean it a little. It doesn't have to be perfect. And just make it welcoming for people. But I believe there are people who use that as an excuse. They maybe even an intentional excuse where they intentionally don't ever get their house clean or ready to host someone. And so then they don't have to. It's a good convenient excuse. They don't do it. So I think, did I answer your question?
You did, yeah.
Some way.
We'll
Okay,
pass it
thank you.
over
Move
to
on
Pastor
to
David
somebody
now.
smarter, please.
No, I mean,
Answers.
no.
Jeez.
I mean, it's an area of growth for me. Like I already mentioned, trying to grow and taking time for people, moments, bringing people out, and that's what I primarily do. I try to have focused time with people and really open myself up to them. Whenever I minister, I always say it's a two-way street. If somebody asks me how I'm doing that day and I'm not doing well, I'll actually tell them. Through transparency, I think it opens my heart. Because Paul said in 1 Thessalonians 2 that we're not sharing the gospel of God only, but our own selves. And so I try to put that in ministry. I'm an open book. Hopefully, I try to be that. And in terms of, we have people over for meetings, for teachings. Like we like to use our home for that. And we have our youth group is at our house right now. We have 8 to 10 kids in our high school group, and we have it at our house. We have worship out on the deck. You know, we get all the neighbors saved from that because George is singing and he's really gifted. No, I'm just kidding. But no, we wanted to do that, and actually that was a great example of hospitality, where it was like just bringing them into our house and saying, this is my home, this is my chaos, these are my kids, but you're welcome in my home. I want you here. You can come early if you want. Like, you can. Not too early, you know, because it's bath night.
You don't want people to wake.
You have to have
up.
some boundaries, you know, set up. Our shirts have to be on before you come in the house, you know, because it's a church event, you know. So we have that going. But just doing that, like it and having meals for them ready, and it put down so many walls and allowed them to open up about themselves a little bit more, and we saw a lot of growth from that. But yeah, I mean, it's something I'm always working on because, like Liz said, I like. Oh, cool. All stuff's done. 8:00, YouTube time, you know, or like what book time, whatever I'm going to do that night.
Yeah.
And I want to keep my life open. Number one, to my wife. Number two, to anybody else that the Lord wants to come over. I don't want to love people from a safe distance. That's like what the Lord's been like just telling me over and over again is like, you can't love people from a safe distance.
Yeah.
You can't. There has to be connection, and like you have to open up your schedule and your time, but I feel like the Lord's trying to teach me a lot on that, and I still have a lot to grow.
Well, I remember actually, because with our live-in discipleship program that Pastor David has run in the past, I remember you bringing some of the students like to your house to have like popcorn and a movie night, and even when your house was a little tiny, like 600
square foot
apartment, like just stuffed in there with all these people. Yeah.
And a dog too.
Right. And a dog, right. It's not the ideal thing, right? Well, some people would use that as an excuse not to, right? But they just did it. And it always impressed me. I was like, yeah, the young people that came to that, they had a good time together. They were, in fact, they grew not just close by proximity, but because they were together.
And you put on Lord of the Rings for people, and right away,
12 hours of together.
That's all you need. That's all you need.
Another Lord of the Rings.
That's all you need.
I knew we'd kind of movie.
Didn't Bilbo invite Gandalf into his house at the beginning? He did.
He didn't invite that little weird guy into his house, did he?
We should be like hobbits. They have so much hospitality.
The little
hobbits. But he didn't invite that little weird guy in, did he?
No, and look what happened to him.
It is true, though. There are a lot of ways to be hospitable. You don't have to have the greatest house. You don't have to be an amazing cook.
Right.
There's ways to do it. Invite people over, get some pizzas, have them over, invite them over for a movie.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll just invite people over for like a fire pit.
Yeah.
You know, it's I don't have time to make dinner or whatever for everyone, but it's like, come over and hang out.
Yeah.
And they do, and it's great, you know, and you get fellowship time and togetherness.
But if they are a good cook, please call me at 2.
Right.
I know. If you need somebody to minister to.
Well, like we were just saying, Jesus was very hospitable, and he did not have a house. He didn't know how to cook, though, apparently.
He did.
So
he cooked them breakfast for all those fish. John 21.
Yeah, that was amazing, wasn't it? He's a good
he
cook.
liked Jesus.
That was the resurrection
Cook
body
fish.
too. Imagine how good his cooking was.
Right.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
You sure that didn't come out of a can? In a microwave?
Starkist.
Candles,
Candles,
canned fish.
chicken noodle fish soup.
All right. Well, we're gonna wrap this one up before we get too far off the rails here. I
Can
think.
we go to your house and eat?
Yeah, sure. No problem.
All right, let's do
Come
this
on
right
over.
now. I'm ready.
Got some canned fish in the pantry. And pop it open.
Nice. Way to go.
All right. Well, we hope that you guys actually take this and try to put it into action. It's easier than you think, and you'll stretch and you grow. But most importantly, you will get to know amazing people, and you will be part of the ministry of God to the whole person, body, soul, and spirit. And God always does more than you think he's doing. And it's a great thing to be able to partner with him.
Isn't that the truth?
And there's giving and there's receiving. And you will not be empty after those encounters.
You know what's strange about God? Sometimes, not about him, but about our walk with him, is that sometimes you just have to start.
Yeah.
Like,
True.
I mean, you just have to go do it, not think if
Don't
you're
overthink
thinking
it.
like, okay, I have to have this, I have to put this in place, I have to get
Right.
that ready. It's like, why don't you just do it
Right.
today?
That's
Like,
good.
just go do that and see what God does.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Go do it.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. Be sure to subscribe to get the latest episode. And for more information, visit spiritschoolofministry.com.